Alright, welcome guys. A big one today. Jagex has announced that they might want to make a new skill, finally. And normally I do these on Tea with Trails, which is a podcast I do on my main channel, where only channel members can listen to it, or Twitch subscribers. But I feel like I might hit bigger audiences here when I talk about this, and I do want more opinions coming in if anyone has any, so feel free to use the comment section as your own personal blog and smack in there what you want. But I just watched the B0aty video about a new skill, and I have a couple things to react to. I agree with a ton of points that he's made. I disagree with a couple, but overall I agree. Again, a lot of people are saying their biases, so I will say my bias. I think RuneScape, or old school RuneScape, would do very nicely with a new skill. I think it opens a lot of opportunity for gameplay. I think it makes it a more modern MMO, which I think it needs to be in order to survive, because old players are not going to keep playing this game forever, and you're going to need new players. And already taken on the argument that old school RuneScape needs to be old school, it hasn't been for 8 years, let's be honest. If this was still old school, you'd be finding the KBD instead of raids. So the game needs to evolve, and the game needs to be deeper eventually, and you need to put the certain pillars in place so it can thrive on that aspect. One of those pillars could be a new skill, but I'll play my own devil's advocate, and I do agree that it needs to be good. Warding was more of a desperation vote for the people that voted yes, I feel like. It made sense, but it wasn't fun. Or it would not have been fun, judging by the blog. Full transparency, I did vote yes to warding because I just love to watch people grind a skill from level 1, get the old school excitement back, but I do agree that that was a desperation vote because the skill wasn't good enough to be in our game. And that's where I agree with B0aty to one point. Now, I will be using some snippets of B0aty's video to argue my point. Hopefully he doesn't mind. But B0aty says this at 4 minutes into his video.
If they are ever going to bring a new skill to old school RuneScape, I think there should only be one more skill ever added to this game.
Which he proceeds to explain that if there's only one more skill in the game, it has to be a masterpiece, which I agree with. But that does not take away from the fact that you could have multiple masterpieces. Let's take the example of RuneScape 3, where, in my opinion, in all the skills they've added, they've only made 2 masterpieces. Now, I'm personally very biased against summoning because it ruined my old school RuneScape experience, so let's just keep summoning out of it. The 2 masterpieces for RuneScape, in my opinion, are Invention and Archaeology. Invention is a genius solution to item prices and fits perfectly into the game's combat. Something like it would not necessarily work in old school RuneScape because the combat system is so limited, but over on RS3 side of things, the item sync that it provides and the boost to combat is a perfect skill, and I would call it a masterpiece. Same goes for Archaeology, a skill that would transfer perfectly into old school RuneScape. It's an absolute masterclass of a skill that adds the existing lore into a skill to learn more about the game. It's deep in its own because all the roots were already in the RuneScape lore, so it made so much sense. These are 2 masterpieces, and the one does not exclude the other. Further on, B0aty makes the point that some skills would not be added into the game if they were pulled now.
It has to be the best skill RuneScape's ever seen to be added. Now, certain things like fire making and probably thieving, they would never be added to this day in a poll. They're all trash. If Jagex made a poll saying, hey, you can now cut logs into bows to create your ammunition because fletching didn't exist, no one gives a shit. Now, obviously, there's probably an idea out of that you can kind of break down of what doesn't currently exist in the game and can go back to it.
Which I agree with to some extent, but they've made it make sense. Agreed, however, that we do not need skills like that in the game currently. We need something more innovative and engaging. But he does say that the fletching skill, if pulled now, would not be into the game, and I do really disagree with that. I think fletching is probably just a bad example, but that is one of the skills that I think would pass a poll because it just makes so much sense to be making bows and arrows. Not really the point he's trying to make though, so I won't go deeper into it. Further on, B0aty makes the point that you should add sailing XP to certain pirate quests, which to me makes a lot of sense. However, please don't make the XP rewards retroactive like they recently did, because then people that have already done all the quests will already start at 30 sailing, and the whole hype at the start is going to be gone. So please don't do that, Jagex, if that ever happens. This is very rhetorical, because none of this is in the game at the moment, but that's just a little concern I had.
It opens potential shortcuts. You know, I'm at Piscatoris. I take a Piscatoris banner, level 4, and there's a shortcut here, let's say, that takes me to Waterbirth Island Dungeon. That's faster than a Waterbirth telly, but might require 47 sailing. Random ideas like that. You can add sailing shortcuts across the game to all over the place. Different ways, different concepts, just new monsters, new bosses, new herb patch for the Iron Man, you know, new Slayer dungeon. It has infinite potential.
Huge. That is a fantastic idea.
A TLDR is basically that if a new skill comes to old school RuneScape, it has to be a masterpiece of a skill. Because I think if they do bring a new skill, it should be the only new skill ever added to the game. Game's almost 10 years old. They had one new skill. Do they want to add 3 more in the next 5 years? We don't know. They bring one new skill. It has to be something with infinite potential. And that infinite potential, I personally think, and ends a lifelong meme in this game, is the sailing skill.
I agree. And also, I think adding the first new skill and it being a masterpiece might open up a window where we get more new skills, but of course, all of them need to be a masterpiece. Now, what do I agree on with the B0aty video? As I just said, the skill has to be perfect. This doesn't take away from the fact that you can only have one though. You can have multiple. Sailing, hard vouch. I'm in. Just like Dungeoneering is for RS3, I think it could be the perfect scalable jump in, jump out content in the game. Let me define my view and like kind of B0aty's view on sailing first, before we get any misunderstandings. You construct a little boat or ship, you sail to an island, you clear the island, which is some dungeon crawler-esque, randomly generated skilling and PvM encounters type deal, and when cleared, you gain a reward at the end. This doesn't have to be items or loot, it could just be XP and points. I really see BA about the rewards, really. Just like Dungeoneering, this offers players from any total level and any combat level an opportunity to jump in solo or with friends to actually use the skills you've been training simultaneously to give all the skills an extra use case. Little tangent, but I've personally wanted a skilling raid for a very long time, and this could be that, but of course, PvM is more generally accepted, so it'll have to be a combination of both. But why not have Dungeoneering at that point? Well, most people will argue because it's more like a minigame and it doesn't have enough depth on its own, which I kind of agree with. Sailing could give that extra incentive of transportation, just like B0aty was saying. Across the world, transport and shortcuts would actually give meaning to the whole roguelike randomly dungeon-generated things you're running. With Gauntlet and Raids 1, we seem to already have enough Dungeoneering-esque content, so in terms of a new skill, we are going to need more depth. And that's why I vouch that we change the name of sailing to exploring or exploration. This denominator encompasses way more than sailing ever could. That way, sailing would also not hold the whole negative connotation that it's gotten throughout the years, because it's always been the name that's been tossed around when it started as a joke into now actually being a skilling idea. So exploration for new skill 2023. I'm in. I could make a video like this for over 10 hours, but a lot of opinions are gonna roll around and I do want to react to most, so maybe we'll make a part 2, who knows? Leave it in the comments if you enjoyed this. Subscribe to my main channel, I don't really care if you subscribe to this one, and leave your thoughts. As long as they're substantial arguments, I'll hear them out gladly. Let's be a bit more open-minded towards a new skill, alright? If it's actually sick, then why not? You can tell me. See you later.